Hey everyone, this is Brandon Oliveras from Co-Creation Coaching, and I am here with another Reader's Questions video. The Reader's Questions video is my chance every week to answer one of your questions about the law of attraction. If you have a question that you'd like me to answer, please go to cocreationcoaching.org/ask, and I would be happy to answer it. So today's question comes from a reader who is asking about self-love. So before anything, let me read that question. Our reader asks, is loving yourself necessary for good manifestations? A lot of LOA teachers seem to harp on the lack of love for oneself as the main block to manifesting. They say you need to love yourself more. Do you think this is true? And if so, then how do you love yourself more? I'm sure to people who love themselves a lot, it's obvious. But to people who do not have self-love, it is not obvious how to do it. Thanks. First of all, I want to say this might be a slightly longer video than usual because there's a lot that I have to say about this. It's something that I really have a very strong opinion on, so I'm going to talk a lot about it. But the first thing is, what exactly does loving yourself mean? This is something we kind of hear a lot in the spiritual community, not just law of attraction, but everywhere in the New Age community, basically, and even in popular psychology. You need to love yourself, and the common saying is, if you don't love yourself, no one else will, which I don't exactly think is true. But what exactly does that mean? It's so vague. And as I read this question, I wish I could ask back, like, okay, what exactly do you mean by that? Because I want to answer in a way that is going to answer and going to address what exactly you are facing, what exactly you're dealing with. And the term self-love is just so vague that it really doesn't do a lot of good. So I don't personally use it. But I know a lot of people who do. But I think getting clear on that is one of the biggest things you can do, first of all, because it really isn't very clearly defined. Some people might think it means doing nice things for yourself, and if that's what you want to do, that's what you do. That's not how I'm going to address it here, because that's not how I see it. If you want to do nice things for yourself, that's fine, obviously, and I think you should. But that's not really going to weigh in on, how you manifest. Now, I want to say that not loving yourself doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be able to manifest, well. And so I'll get that out of the way for the rest of what I'm going to say, because that was one of your specific questions. Does it mean that you can't manifest well? And it doesn't at all. I will say this. Okay. So, and I was actually just talking to a client about this the other day, that, I've had personally a lot of issues with self-love. And do they still persist? Not as chronically as they used to. There are some things here and there. But I think most, if not all of us, have something like that somewhere. Something we might not like about ourselves or whatever. But it used to be a lot worse. And I don't personally feel that it got in the way of manifestations. I think it depends where you look. In terms of, let's say, money, which is one of my main interests as far as manifesting things, I would say no, it didn't get in the way. Now, other things did, subconscious beliefs, things like that. In terms of relationships, it absolutely got in the way for a while. But the interesting thing is, and this is why I say I don't believe the claim that, if you don't love yourself, then no one else will. Because when I met Christine, I absolutely did not love myself. I absolutely was very, very insecure. And nevertheless, we became really good friends. Eventually we started dating. I think she'll agree that she pursued me more than anything else, because I didn't have the confidence to do that. I'll come out and say, like, she initiated the first kiss. So I just wasn't confident enough to go after that. I did ask her out when I wanted to start dating her, but it was super duper awkward, and it took a lot of courage on my part to do that because I was really afraid of rejection. So, and even after we started dating, it was difficult. We both had insecurities, and we worked through those together, and we committed to each other, and now it's a lot better. But my point is, those things did somewhat get in the way, but it didn't outright prevent me from having a relationship and eventually getting married. No, it wasn't an easy road, but I was able to do it because I think of her persistence. So I think in that way, depending on how you don't love yourself, then it might get in the way in terms of relationships. If you already have a relationship, then it might not be a big issue. But sometimes it might. Sometimes the other person will try to give you a compliment or something, and you'll deny it because you don't feel like you're worthy of that. But, if you're really open with your partner, especially, then they will see through that and help you through those kinds of insecurities, which is a really valuable thing to have in a partner. So, in general, no, it doesn't stop you from manifesting, depending on the area of life. I think relationships is the area that is most hit by that. But other areas, let's say for a job interview, you might need to have some confidence, but confidence can be faked too. Plenty of people fake confidence, then get by with it, So you don't need to be this perfect person. You don't need to absolutely love yourself and adore yourself in order to start manifesting. I have talked about my own chronic anxiety and tendency towards depression, and I still manifest perfectly fine. So you don't need to be, some paragon of self-love and self-worthiness and whatnot to be able to manifest, to be able to get started with the law of attraction and to be able to get wonderful results with it. So the law of attraction does take inner work, but it doesn't take perfection. So if you want a goal, don't say, well, I'm not there yet, I have to work on some stuff first. And no, get started on it. And, the goal will point out those things that you need to work on in order to get there. And some of that might have to do with confidence, or some of that might have to do with insecurity, or some of that might have to do with how you feel about yourself, but it might not too. So just get started is my recommendation. Now, however, I do want to point out several areas that I think it can affect us. And I'm going to use terms that are much more specific than self-love. So here are the 4 things I think self-love does mean, at least for me, and how it does influence our manifestations. Number 1 is that self-love means the willingness to forgive yourself. Now, I had a post last week just about this, which is kind of coincidental, kind of a synchronicity that this question came up now. That I happened upon this question. So that post, I'll link to it in the description and in the transcript. But that post was how to use self-forgiveness to free yourself from resistance. So I would recommend checking out that post. I talked a lot about self-forgiveness. But basically, if you feel like you've done something wrong, or if you're angry with yourself for being stuck, or if you just don't like what you're doing in life, then you need to forgive that. And I talked about in that post that not forgiving yourself, when you feel stuck like that, when you have something you feel you've done wrong or something where you feel you're stuck, that is going to hold you back. So you definitely want to work on forgiving yourself for those things. And as I said in the post, it doesn't mean you actually did something wrong. It just means you're stuck. It means that you feel maybe you did something wrong, or you feel like you're stuck, or you feel like you need some help with something. And so you forgive yourself. And forgiveness will free yourself from those bonds, from that karmic entanglement, from that stuck energy. And you will feel much freer as a result of that. So self-forgiveness, I think, is hugely important. It might not always affect, it's not going to affect every area of life, but if you have something, let's say in regards to a job or money, and your manifestation has to do with a job or money, then it's going to affect you. Let's just say, for example, that you feel frustrated with yourself, or you feel that you were irresponsible for quitting a job before you should have, before you feel like it would, you should have, and you took on too much risk or something. That's something a lot of people do sometimes. This isn't about blame. It's just about, can you forgive yourself for that circumstance? Okay, and if you can do that, you can free yourself from repeating that action and from reaping the rewards, but the fruit of that action. So if you quit too early and then, let's say a month or two down the line, you say, oh my gosh, what did I do? And I'm such a horrible person. I'm so irresponsible. I'm so rash. If you keep holding on to that, you're going to keep getting those results where things aren't working out for you. You keep getting reminders that you were stupid for quitting too early. And you'll keep getting that until you say, you know what? I did what I did. And whether it was right or wrong, it's what's done. And so I'm going to forgive myself for that. And I'm going to move on with life and just see where things take me. Once you do that, you're freed of that karma. I've described what karma means before, so you might want to check that out. But you're freed of that karma and can move on. Okay, you don't have to keep experiencing the bad effects, the negative results from what you did, from that action, from that decision. As soon as you forgive yourself, as soon as you free yourself from that. A related part to this is forgiveness of others. If someone else did something to you, then you do need to forgive them as well, especially if it's related to what you want to manifest. And you don't have to tell them necessarily, but you have to do it within your own mind. And it has to be sincere. Number 2 is that self-love means giving yourself space to be with your feelings. And this basically is just, we block ourselves from our feelings a lot, and we hide from them, from, facing them through either, let's say, watching TV, through alcohol, through, shopping, through eating, all sorts of habits that, on their own aren't destructive, but as an escape become destructive. So manifestation requires deep honesty with your feelings. It really requires very deep honesty with your feelings and with how you feel on a day-to-day basis, okay? And so if you're not giving yourself that honesty, if you're not allowing yourself to just be with those feelings without judgment, this kind of goes back to self-forgiveness a little bit, then those feelings can't be released. That resistance can't be released. So, if you have fear about something and you hide the fear by shutting it down and going to do something else, that fear can never be released. And guess what? It's going to be manifested over and over and over again, because every time you shut it down, it becomes part of your subconscious. It becomes more deeply ingrained in your subconscious, and it's more difficult to release. So you don't want to do that. I've always encouraged mindfulness, which is really the thing to do here to be with your feelings. Just listening to them, giving them a space to be, not identifying with them, not reacting to them, But a good analogy is, if your child is trying to tell you something that is really vulnerable for them, you don't sit there and judge them. You sit there and just listen to what they have to say and give them understanding and empathy. And that's really what your feelings need. So if you do that for yourself, then these things can be released and you can move on, and it'll be a lot easier to manifest those goals. The third thing is that self-love means connecting with your core essence. Now, I had a podcast about this a couple weeks ago. It was the episode number 23 of Co-Create Your Life, and the title was Why Your Desire Should Resonate with Your Core Essence. And I talked a lot about why it's so important to be in alignment with your core essence in that podcast. Your core essence is just another name for your soul, basically. It's who you are underneath of everything, underneath of the ego and all your thoughts and everything. And I've been realizing lately, I talked about this maybe 2 weeks ago in one of the creator circles also, about connecting with my own core essence, taking time out of my day to connect with my own core essence and saying, hey, what's going on? This is what I'm afraid of. This is what I'm feeling. And giving that over to your soul, giving that over to your core essence, and just seeing what happens. It could just be silence. It could just be a peaceful feeling, but you might get a message too. If you just sit in that silence, you might get a message, or you might just get a positive feeling of everything will be okay. I started doing this recently, and, especially when I feel really flustered, or when I'm getting up in the morning and I'm not looking forward to the day because I have to do something I don't want to do, I will connect with that part of myself and just say, this is what I'm feeling. I really don't want to do this. Why am I on this path? What is going on? And almost always I'll get some sort of answer, either then or later on in the day. Or I'll just have more fortitude to deal with what comes. Because, not connecting to your core essence, which I think the majority of people don't do, is like a plant not having water or sunlight. Or a fish out of water, you could say, too. Connecting with that part of yourself nourishes you. It gives you life. And the more you do that, the more you will tend to live from that place, the more you will tend to be authentic to yourself, the more you will tend to express and manifest those things that are integral to your soul, why you're here, your purpose in life. So if you don't do that, you're going to be lost without that. Your core essence grounds you. It gives you a foundation to build upon. So I highly, highly encourage you to connect with that daily. And, these suggestions I'm giving build on top of one another. If you're not forgiving yourself, then you can't give your feelings space to be, and then you can't connect with your core essence. There's just too much blocking it. If you're unable to forgive yourself about something, or unable to forgive someone else about something, you're going to be blocked from actually connecting with your core, because your core is a place of non-judgment. It's a place of complete unconditional love and acceptance. And if your ego is too riled up with all these other things going on, fears and judgments and whatnot, then you can't get to that place. So that, you have to take care of each point kind of individually, and then it'll be easier to go to the next. So I highly recommend taking at least a few minutes a day. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute meditation. It doesn't have to be, some sort of real structured formal thing. You could just take 2 minutes or 5 minutes or something in the morning or whenever feels best to you, and connect with that part of yourself and see what happens. Don't expect anything, just see what happens. And finally, number 4 is that self-love means listening to your soul urges. And that specific phrase came into my mind when I was outlining what I wanted to talk about today, soul urges. Like, I've never really used that phrase, but all right. So, this one is especially close to me. I'll talk about why in a second. But once you start connecting with yourself, you will start to get messages. You will start to get urges. You will start to get calling in a certain direction. And a lot of us, even if you don't connect with yourself, your soul is, and your spirit guides, your higher self, whatever, is always going to try to come through and say, hey, you're going down the wrong path, and why don't you try this other way? And but a lot of us have this thing about, no pain, no gain. So the harder it is, then it must be I'm doing the right thing. And so I keep pushing through and I keep pushing through and it keeps getting harder and I keep getting more dissatisfied. And I just have to keep pushing through. That's just how life is. And then, you're 10 years down the road and you're just totally deadened to and deafened to what your soul is calling you to do. You don't want that. Okay. And it'll be a lot easier once you connect with your core to listen to what your soul is urging you to do. One example in my own life, I've been very open and explicit about my manifestation when I got off of SSI. That was hugely successful. The way that happened initially was through getting a job as a programmer, which is something that is something I'm good at, I'll say that. And when that happened, I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to take things. I'd been coaching at that time for almost 2 years. Now it's been over 2 years. And I just wasn't sure. Did I want to keep doing that? Did I want to do this programming thing and enjoy the financial reward of that? Or what did I want to do? And so I took that and I enjoyed and still enjoy the outcome from that. But, for the past month and a half, maybe even 2 months, I don't know, I've been feeling this inner dissatisfaction, and now I've been working with a business coach and working towards transitioning to only doing co-creation coaching, but it kind of felt like co-creation coaching was getting my leftover time, and I have been posting pretty much every day, every weekday at least, and that's big, but it's taking like all of my time. So there's work, and then I work on co-creation coaching for maybe 3 hours at night, and then during the weekends I really work on it because that's the only free time I have, and then Sunday night comes and it's like, I didn't get to rest. And then I have to start Monday all over. And after a few weeks, it feels like, I'm just so worn out. And so, I've been feeling this dissatisfaction, but I did kind of what I said not to do. I just gotta push through it. This is what has to happen. Now, just, when you feel that kind of thing, I just have to push through it. This is just what has to happen. This is how life is right now. That's your ego. That's not your soul. Your soul knows there's a better way. Okay, your soul always knows there's a better way. And, for several weeks, I didn't really listen to that. And finally, last week, I was like, you know what? There has to be a better way. There has to be a solution to this. And, I ended up talking to my coach and being like, because she's a business coach, but she's also a very intuitive person, and she helped me realize what my core essences were. And, she's super spiritual, which I love. Like, she was the perfect business coach. She's also spiritual and all that, and believes in the law of attraction and everything, which is great. So I talked to her and I said, there has to be a way to cope with this. Because I thought it was something I was stuck with. I said, I have to cope with this. And she's like, well, could you go part-time? I'm like, that would be scary, but probably, And so the conclusion we came to was that I was going to go part-time. And after I go, I'm going on vacation early September. After the vacation, I'm going to go part-time. And then I'll have, let's say work in the morning for the programming job. And then I have the rest of the day for co-creation coaching and everything that I want to do, what my passion is. And that, I just immediately felt this relief. Fear from the egoic sense, like, what if it doesn't work out? What if you don't make up the gap financially? But exhilaration from the soul level of, this is it. That's what I was looking for. That takes off the pressure. I don't mind a few hours a day or whatever. And I can devote the majority of my time to what I really want to do. So right now I'm recording this, it's Sunday, so I actually haven't talked to them yet about this possibility. I think it'll go well. By the time this video goes up, I will know the answer. So if you want to know, ask in the comments, or maybe I'll add a kind of postscript to the video, the transcript at least. So just check that out. But I don't know right now. I'm hoping it'll go well. I'm going to ask tomorrow, which will be Monday. But I think it'll go well. But that was me listening to my soul's urge, my soul's calling, saying you need to put more time into what you really want to do in life. And I listen. And that will be scary. Your soul will not always ask you to do something that's easy. It will always be invigorating and enjoyable and wonderful, but it will not always be easy. Because your ego will say, what if, what if, what if, what if? And you have to work through that. And that's what I'm doing right now. So I hope that, like I said, I'm really sorry. This is an extremely long video today, but I would not cut out anything I said. I think it was all essential to this topic. And so I'm going to leave it all. But I'm sorry for that. So I hope that it did answer your question, and to everyone else, I hope that it helps you to know what exactly does it mean to love yourself and give you some more pointers on what you can do to do that better and to help your manifestations along. So once again, if you'd like to ask a question to be answered here, you can go to cocreationcoaching.org/ask and submit your question there. If you'd like to get more videos like this, be notified when I post more, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. So once again, I am Brandon Oliveris from Co-Creation Coaching, and as always, anything is possible.